Today I'm going to unbag and take a look at CDG Solo System Pack 2. What does CDG stand for? Well, it's Card Driven Game, and this is a solo system that is a continuation of CDG Solo System. This was Pack 1, but you never label the first one Pack 1, right? So here is the CDG Solo System, which I think really originated with Stuka Joe and some of his efforts to create some kind of a solo assisted system for playing card-driven games. Card-driven games are just that. They're games, war games, typically, that are driven by cards, meaning that the cards have events or action points or both that you use to move the game forward, using action points to do stuff like move and attack and other things, and the events might do some similar aspects as well. And typically these are on the point-to-point maps, but they don't have to be on that, but that is kind of a typical feature of it. However, this CDG Solo System, took it to the Command and Colors, which is on a hex map, but it is highly card driven in that you have to use the cards for your orders. The cards that you have in your hand are your choices of where you can move, whether you can move in the center or either of the flanks, moving certain groups of units. The rest of these Paths of Glory, Washington's War, and Caesar Rome versus Alesia, and For the People. Those are all your typical card-driven, point-to-point type games. Samurai Battles and Ancients, of course, are Command and Colors, which is what I was saying, is that you use the cards for orders to move your troops through either the center or the flanks. This system, or the Pack 2, I should say, kind of follows up with some of the similar type aspects. Pursuit of Glory is a follow-up to Paths of Glory and deals with the Middle East. That's a point-to-point. World War II Barbarossa to Berlin is a card-driven point-to-point. Wilderness War is a card-driven point-to-point. Command and Colors Medieval and Command and Colors Napoleonics are just that, Command and Colors. So it's using cards as orders and moving either on your center or the flanks, moving units in your center and flanks. The interesting add to this is 1960, Making of the President, in that's a political game, and it's not. It's neither a point-to-point or a hex game, hex grid game. It is kind of an area control, but controlling the states, through influence to obtain votes for the presidential election, and it recreates the 1960 very, very close election between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy. So let's get inside the bag and see what we get here. This system, I end up having Paths of Glory, Ancients, Samurai Battles, Washington, Caesar, For the People. I had all these. There are, I think there's one other that was in this set that I did not have, but it's not focused on the front here. I'll pull that out later if I get a chance. On this, just if you look at what's on the cover, I only really have two. I have Wilderness War in 1960. I'm looked at Medieval, looked at Napoleonics. Can't believe I don't have Napoleonics. But this right here is going to make me want to get probably Pursuit of Glory and World War II. Well, I might get all these at some point, but this has kind of sparked my interest in looking at these. I didn't know a lot about World War II, Barbarossa to Berlin, and looking at that a little bit more, it started to pique my interest a little bit more. Anyway, got this from GMT Games. I want to thank them for this, and wanted to get this out to you all so you guys can see what is in the bag here. So you're going to get some counters here. These counters are kind of administrative, and they're used to tell you how many cards are remaining. The solo system is really based on managing your opponent's card deck, is really kind of what it's focused on. Because in card-driven games, you have hidden information because you're playing against an opponent and they're playing their cards, and just choosing their cards for certain actions on the board, just like you are. So what this system does is this, takes part of that out of your hands. Not all of it. You still have to make some decisions for your opponent in this game, but not as many, and it kind of keeps you from choosing the optimum path for yourself when you're playing their hand, I guess, because it's kind of forcing you to get to certain cards that your opponent has. And so these are going to be counters that keep track of stuff like cards remaining and max hand size and stuff like that. And there'll be a player board in there that we'll get to and take a look at that. This die is kind of the randomizer of the system, and each of these, the system for each of these games is a little bit different. There's a general system of how it plays, but how it relates to each one of these games is going to be a little different, because these games are a little different, and even the ones that are pure card-driven games, point-to-point card-driven games, they're different as well. So let's take a look at the rule summary here, which is not going to be very long. You basically have 4 pages, and the last page is hardly anything there. So you got your components, which is that card displays, standard setup, standard turn procedure. You're going to roll this dice, and then there's going to be a code or a key that tells you what this means for each of the specific games. And then there you have it. So really less than 4 pages. So you got 2 and a little bit pages. Not that complicated. Here's this card tableau or your card display where you're going to be putting your opponent, when you're the AI, so to speak, or the opponent's cards on here. Here's the track to use some of these counters here, and this will is your tableau to kind of keep track of what cards you're supposed to draw from and play that turn. This is what's really dictating which of your opponent's cards need to be played. Now, you might have to make some decisions once you get to that card, but this gets you to that card, and that's really kind of the heart of the system here. So you got you got 2 displays here. Can't remember why there's 2 displays, but I got to look at that here. And so then the rest of this game is going to be, there's a little bit of card backing here, but the rest of these. The rest of this packet is going to be for the individual games. So here is a CDG Solo System for 1960 Making of the President, and this is going to tell you what each of those when you roll this die, what does that mean? What cards you go to and what you need to do to play. And so basically the rules, this is kind of the overall system rules, but this is the specific rules for that game. And as I said, I have 1960 Making of the President. Excellent game. I have to say, if you're into election games, this is a very good game to play. Very fun, very interesting, very tight. World War II Barbarossa to Berlin, which is a straight up CDG that deals with just what it says, Barbarossa to Berlin. So pretty much 41 to the end of the war in Europe. This is the Ted Racer design. Straight up CDGs, point to point, with card driven games and action points and events. And then when you roll the dice, it tells you what you need to do on this tableau of which card to get to. And there's the rules there. Command and colors, Epic, Ancients 2. So I guess this is dealing with, I think that was an expansion to Command and Colors that had extended boards and how to play larger battles, I believe. So I think this might be goes to that. I'd have to look at that. Here's Command and Colors Medieval. Again, so this is a straight up Command and Colors. You have blocks with different forces, whether they're mounted or archers or infantry or what have you. And they're going to be in groups, and you're going to have cards in your hand that represent your orders. You're going to play a card, and it's going to tell you to move, like you can move troops on your flank, or move troops in your center, or move all your troops, or a certain number of groups, or certain types of troops. So that's what Command and Colors basically is, and this is going to get you to what order you need to play for your opponent. And there's the rules for that. Command and Colors Napoleonics, same thing, except this one goes to Napoleonics, and there's a large series of this. This might be the biggest series of Command and Colors. I really dabbled in Ancients, but this one really has expanded into a lot of different aspects of the Napoleonic Wars. This medieval is interesting. This was the first foray into medieval period, and it really is very early medieval period. It's like the 500s or so, and Byzantine battles and conquests. Then you have some more Command and Color. Oh, so this is Epic Battles. So this is Epic Battles. So they had the same expansion or extension that you had in Ancients. This is the standard system for Napoleonics, which again is quite expansive. Empire of the Sun. Oh, I didn't see this one. This is awesome. This is interesting because I didn't know this was in here. This is interesting because Empire of the Sun has later versions has its own solo system, and Mark Herman has been refining that solo system. So this is interesting of either, I guess, using this as a standalone to that solo system, or I don't know if you can use this in conjunction with the solo system that's kind of built in. So this is interesting. I didn't know this was in here. Kind of a bonus. Then we have Wilderness War, which again is a straight up CDG, point to point, and is from Volkoruki, and this is excellent game on the Wilderness War. Now, the problem with CDGs that some people find, especially like with Paths of Glory, they can become very ahistorical, right? Because you're trying to simulate a conflict, like for example, Paths of Glory, World War I, but the play of the cards take things in different directions relatively quick. And so, but the one thing that CDGs do well is they're very playable. I mean, so they focus a lot on the play aspect and having a competitive game and having it be interesting and, again, a game and not as much of a simulation. Now, I'm not saying that CDGs can't simulate or bad simulations. They're just a little, generally, and this is an overgeneralization probably, but they're generally not as tight on the simulation as you might find in a hex encounter. Again, an overgeneralization, but I find CDGs to be much more fun, I guess, as we're playing a game. I mean, it's called play, right? So there should be some fun in there. I find the CDGs a little bit more fun, a little bit more playable, a little bit more of a true game aspect, but still give you the feel of the conflict, give you the history of the conflict. A lot of CDGs put history on the cards, and the cards that are available are all based on history, either the maneuvers or the leaders or what have you. So anyway, but Wilderness War is, in my opinion, the best, one of the best, if not the best, CDG on that topic, the French and Indian War. So now you have a solo system to get to your opponent's cards on there. Here's Pursuit of Glory. Now, Pursuit of Glory is a follow-up to Paths of Glory, which is kind of considered one of the preeminent CDGs. Again, very playable. It's played at conventions. Has a very large following. It also has some detractors as well. Some people that do not like the sim value of it. But Pursuit of Glory was a follow-up to that, focusing on the Middle East, and it has its own fan base, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've just never picked it up. But now that I have this, maybe do I need to look at that again? But again, that's a straight-up CDG. It really tracks off of the Paths of Glory system. Anyway, so that is what you get in a bag of CDG Solo System Pack 2. There's some stuff. The epic stuff I didn't know was in there, and the it's just too much stuff to even get in all here, right? The epic stuff I didn't know was in there, and the Empire of the Sun I didn't know was in there. So those are a couple of surprises to me that kind of a nice surprise. Don't we like nice surprises? Anyway, I want to thank GMT Games again. So I have at least some use of this. I have Wilderness War, 1960 Making the President. I have Empire of the Sun. And there you have it. So this is what I have for you today. Love to know your thoughts on this, either the original Solo system or this Pack 2. Again, really, they're not really changing up the system as much as they're just adapting it to additional games. So I can see this system, this format, having Pack 3, 4, or 5, or whatever, what have you, as they want to take this or out to other games that have cards at the core, where you need to determine your opponent's card to play. Anyway, thanks all. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.